There comes a time when you find a game to be so massive, so insurmountable in its scope that all you can really do is say, oh yeah, I'll get to that game eventually, I swear. That was me a little over 4 years ago with the release of CD Projekt Red's The Witcher 3: The Wild Hunt. I've downloaded and re-downloaded this game a handful of times, pledging that this will be it, only to sheepishly set it aside for new games and review assignments. Thanks to a slowish summer release calendar, I forced myself to sit my ass down and play through The Witcher 3 once and for all. And I did. And it was awesome. This may not be news to a lot of people, but The Witcher 3 is beyond phenomenal. It's a gigantic beast of an open-world RPG that feels so real, lived in, and true to the fiction established by Andrzej Sapkowski's novels. It uses the books as a foundation rather than an outright adaptation, taking Sapkowski's major characters and events and building an epic fantasy story featuring a world inhabited by monsters and non-humans, and humans who want nothing to do with either. Enter Geralt of Rivia, a witcher for hire who is willing to tackle and tame any beast for the right price, and has done so with aplomb in his last 2 video game adventures. You'll want to play them, or read their Wikipedia entries before The Witcher 3, given how heavily it references people, places, and events of the past. The Wild Hunt, though, is a story of Ciri, Geralt's young ward and Padawan learner, who has disappeared to fend off the Wild Hunt, a mysterious and mythical force that leaves fear and blood in their wake. The primary reason why it took so long for me to finish this game is because of its depth. Without a doubt, this is the largest RPG I've played, and other large-scale titles like Skyrim or Fallout can't quite match the Wild Hunt's quality and quantity. The world CD Projekt Red created for Geralt to ply his trade in is expansive and chock full of encounters between man and beast that could be short, one-off encounters or the start of a multi-layered quest. Along the way, Geralt meets all sorts of people in need of a witcher's assistance, and through twists of fate and political machinations, he always happens to find himself front and center for the continent's most earth-shattering power plays. Between hunting monsters, helping a wife track down a missing husband, or uncover the panic-inducing amount of question marks on the map, there is always something for you to do on the side. The main quest, though, involves combing the continent's 3 largest settlements, Novigrad, Skellige, and Velen, to gather clues regarding Ciri's whereabouts and, at the same time, reunite with close friends, allies, and former flames. The Witcher 3 is nothing if not thorough, and loves to take its sweet time with unfolding the story and getting Geralt where he needs to go. This is reflected through its cast of enterprising characters looking to Geralt for help with their problems and roadblocks. And even though this is a fantasy world with elves, dwarves, wraiths, drowners, dragons, and godlings, the world and those that inhabit it, even the monsters, are motivated by relatable concerns. The stories found in The Wild Hunt are powered by the familiar themes of politics, greed, religion, racism, and economics. Stick to the main quest, and you're really going to miss out on what makes this virtual place feel so rich. Beyond the city walls lies an entire world of possibility that pays attention to how people live on the outskirts of society. Novigrad is a city that enjoys the comforts of a good economy, comfortable housing, taverns, brothels, and merchants as far as the eye can see. But it also suffers from poverty, persecution, and it's also home to an entire underground network of thieves and spies that whisper in the dark. Go beyond Novigrad, and you'll encounter smaller, more quaint villages dealing with the inconvenience of a Nilfgaardian occupation force and bandits that see racist farmers as easy pickings. No matter how you swing it, unless you have money or a good bloodline, life can be pretty shitty, and The Witcher 3 isn't afraid of dragging you through the muck.
There's a light drizzle, yet the cold tore right through you.
Spend enough time with these people, and eventually you'll find yourself engaged in a myriad of combat experiences. Villages and towns have posting boards covered with announcements, proclamations, and requests for aid against monsters and thugs. Bandits eke out their own lucrative existences, hassling people, and for the most part are the least entertaining enemies to fight. They are human after all, and don't pose much of a challenge against a witcher that can cast mind-altering spells and conjure a wall of flame with a simple gesture of his fingers. Battling the game's encyclopedia's worth of monsters is the most attractive feature. You don't have to go far to find people suffering from the presence of otherworldly beasts, many of which are taken from Polish folklore, that prey on people in their homes or lure them out into the forest so they can be killed without much human intervention. From what I can remember of the previous Witcher games, combat with these creatures was all about the preparation of special oils that boost damage against different monster types, and buffs to help keep Geralt alive through the fight. It feels like a lot of that was streamlined for the Wild Hunt, because once you brew a specific oil, you'll always have it in your inventory instead of having to make it each time. A bestiary, which I'd love to get in printed form, constantly expands as you uncover more information about these creatures, especially as it pertains to their weaknesses. Using a combination of light and heavy attacks, Geralt can dance his way through a fight, deflecting blades and striking foes until they become piles of bloody body parts. Geralt's magical abilities come in handy, granting him a shield that protects from a strike, a telekinetic blast to push people back, and stun to assist with crowd control. When the battles are done, Geralt gains experience towards his character level. He can loot bodies for new gear, materials for new crafting, armor, and potions, and he also gets ability points to upgrade and unlock new skills. Depending on the circumstances, people and monsters that have learned common speech can be reasoned with. Dialogue choices can sometimes be the only thing that stands between you and a peaceful resolution or a violent one. As a Witcher, Geralt owns several unique powers, but none is more valuable when talking to people than the spell that can influence their minds. This often appears as a dialogue option for NPCs that are at their most stubborn. Geralt can use it to get his own way and extract more coin from unwilling purses, as well as information, but there were moments when the spell didn't work, and that ended up putting me in the middle of an unplanned skirmish. The Wild Hunt offers no shortage of content, and in some ways that can be a detriment for those of us with time constraints, because it's entirely possible to spend over 100 hours doing and seeing everything the game has to offer. Throughout the game's lifespan, CD Projekt Red has displayed an incredible level of generosity by doling out lots of free content, as well as 2 paid expansions that open up new areas, add cutscenes, and introduce new characters to a game that already has more than Game of Thrones. It took over 4 years to build up the courage and develop a commitment to playing the game through to the end, and while it dominated my life, I couldn't have asked for a better game to do so. Everything about The Witcher 3 presents itself as a game of meticulous craft. In my absence, CD Projekt Red fine-tuned the game and made all sorts of quality of life changes. The one most dearest to me was increasing the size of UI and in-game text. When I first played the game in 2015, I felt like I had to pull a chair right up against the TV just to read the text of documents and mission briefings, but now it's a lot more comfortable and far easier on the eyes. Speaking of which, The Witcher 3 is still stunningly gorgeous after all these years. Not only are the graphics spectacular, it's the Wild Hunt's production values that put it over the top. The costumes, architecture, and monster designs are the best in this business, and other games are going to have to work twice as hard to match the casual elegance of the game's costuming. It might have taken a long time, but I can finally say with as much pride as I could muster, I finished The Witcher 3, and I loved every hour of it. Well, maybe not all of it. My only gripe of substance would be the slog that is the main story's final act. With all of the characters on the stage, I was ready and raring to go for the final push towards the end boss. Except I had to play through several more multi-stage quests that kind of ruined the pacing that was leading towards this big epic encounter. It's still really good content to play, but I think at this particular point, I was ready for the story to be over, but The Witcher 3 wasn't done with me. As for the game's Fallout-style ending, where you get a bunch of cutscenes that sort of wrap up all the loose ends that you were involved with during the game, I was pretty satisfied with the ones I got, except for the one that really mattered, Ciri and Geralt's future. I'm unable to pinpoint what decisions I made for the story to take the route that I got, but I felt a little cheated, though I guess I was mostly sad that they parted ways after I spent over 50 hours trying to bring them together. As far as sword and sorcery video games are concerned, The Witcher 3: The Wild Hunt reigns supreme. All of its gameplay mechanics come across as organic and natural, with nothing feeling like it was forced or thrown together for the sake of a back-of-the-box bullet point. And best of all, it's brimming with charm and has a great sense of humor that goes a long way.
A test acquisitor? Sounds fancy. Complicated.
Yet it's ever so simple. Grasp it firmly, move it around, and the louder it squeals, the closer you are. Spare me your juvenile wit, please. Well, what are you waiting for?
There's never going to be a game like this, I think. Not for a while, at least. I guess what I'm really trying to say is The Witcher 3 is an absolute, unquestionable must-play.
You promised to show me that griffin's nest before we left. Let's go now.
You actually interested?
Absolutely. You said it yourself. A royal griffin's a rare sight.
Not that rare. Venture to say we'll have to slay a couple more before we get back to Kaer Morhen. But if you want to see the nest, it's just up the hill.
Come.